Happy Monday, team. Yes, we are back for a second video on a Monday with the No Glitz, No Glamour daily video from BanksterDFS.com, taking a look at the Monday Night Football showdown between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. My name is Doug Shane from Bankster DFS, and if you are not a member yet of Bankster DFS, this is what we do, folks. We cover every major sport, tons of niche sports, college sports, and our Slack chat is loaded with bonus channels. Things ranging from sports betting to sports cards to WWE. We have a training wing called Bankster University where we kind of teach the game and the ins and outs of DFS. And we even have a page for our, one of our partners, Prize Picks DFS, where you can get a 100% deposit bonus up to $100 with your first deposit. Link in the description below using the promo code Bankster. With those sports that we cover, we give you daily player pools for all the major niche and college sports. You get the Slack chat, which covers all the different sports that we have and those bonus channels. And you get award-winning articles and analysis from Fantasy Sports Writers Association Writers of the Year, myself, Doug Shane, and Jeff Kaminsky, and future FSWA award winners, Team Bankster, best team in the business, folks. All that is for $3.99 per week. You can lower that effective cost by signing up for monthly or yearly subscriptions. And please understand, when you sign up with us, if our price increases for new members, it will never increase for you as long as you continue to stay a member of our site and do not cancel. BanksterDFS.com. You get everything, all sports, all content, no hidden fees. If you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter at Bankster17. And to subscribe, you go to BanksterDFS.com/subscribe. Speaking of Twitter, you can check me and Michael Gudadero out every Sunday morning on Twitter, live streaming, and right here on our YouTube page for NFL Live Before Lock at 10:30 in the morning up until noon, where we go over cash games, GPPs, and inactives, and we just talk about your lineups, have a great time, and enjoy ourselves leading up to that 1 hour right before kickoff every Sunday morning. While you're here, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification icon so you are made aware when we have new videos and that when we go live. Folks, we are here now to talk about the Thursday, Doug, don't push it too far, Monday Night Football game between the Lions and the Packers. Just a couple of ideas of what we can look for in the game today. A couple injuries of note. DeAndre Swift is expected to play, even though he was listed as questionable. There is some concern that both him and JAMAAL Williams might not play in this game. Both are looking to play. DeAndre Swift had himself a pretty decent game week one. Really interesting situation. JAMAAL Williams was getting a little more of the early down work, but DeAndre Swift still came in, had 11 rushing attempts, had 11 targets. That passing game work is huge. It could be very huge in this game going up against the Packers team that's kind of expected to blow Detroit out, right? Packers are 11.5-point favorites, coming off a game where they just got blown out, probably pissed off. You could see a lot of DeAndre Swift in the passing game. But if the game gets too out of hand, they might not use him as much given the fact that he was a little banged up this week. JAMAAL Williams' revenge game, perhaps, for everyone. Looked good in week one. He also was really involved in the passing game. 9 targets, 20 targets for the running backs in this offense. Very Indianapolis Colts-like. Also had those 9 rushing attempts, scored a touchdown. Big week for JAMAAL Williams. I do think he's going to be heavily involved in the game plan here against the Packers. I do think you're going to see a lot of the running backs and TJ Hawkinson in this game as well. Hawk had a great week against a really good 49ers defense, particularly against tight ends. He had 11 targets, almost had 100 yards, scored a touchdown. I do expect him to be really involved in the passing game as well. He is the #1 target for the Detroit Lions offense. I think it's important that we do consider him strongly for our team. One of the reasons you're going to find the running backs and Hawkinson so heavily involved is that Tyrell Williams has already been ruled out for this game. Khalif Raymond is an interesting situation if he does play. He was actually second on the team, or first on the team, actually. Tyrell Williams ended up not having a ton of snaps because he ended up getting hurt. Khalif Raymond had more snaps than any other Detroit receiver last week. You know, you might think QUINTEZ CEPHUS will get some look, Amon-Ra St. Brown, but at the end of the day, it was Khalif Raymond who led the team in snap percentage, and if he plays today, he's a guy that you can consider for your lineups at only $4,400 as the main wide receiver, but he's also kind of banged up, so he might not get in the game, which leaves us with QUINTEZ CEPHUS, who saw the fewest amount of snaps, but I also think he has maybe as much upside as any receiver on the team. Definitely a deep threat. Still had 6 targets in his limited snaps, but only 3 receptions for 12 yards. Did score a touchdown. He is a deep threat type of a receiver. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, the rookie out of USC, who looked really good in the preseason. Only 4 targets, had quite a more than 50% snap share, but wasn't a major part of the offense. And the other guy to look at is Trinity Benson. Trinity Benson had about 45-50% snap share, 6 targets, not a ton of yards, but no one had a ton of yards outside of the running backs and Hawkinson. But Benson is a guy who looked really good in the preseason for Denver and was traded right before the season to Detroit. He was actually on Detroit last year as well. I actually like his skill set, and at $1,000, he's a guy you can throw into your lineup who should see some targets, particularly with Tyrell Williams out and if Khalif Raymond ends up being out in this game. Benson's a guy that you can throw in your lineup at $1,000 and gives you a ton of salary relief so you can spend up on the players that you're going to want to spend up on in this game. And those guys that you're going to want to spend up on, Davante Adams is probably your best option in terms of high upside for captaincy. I would look at TJ Hawkinson as a potential captain in this game simply because he's a little bit cheaper, but you really want to pair your quarterback with your captain if your captain is a pass catcher, particularly a wide receiver or a tight end. And I'm not really that interested in playing Jared Goff in this game. I don't think he's the most dynamic of players, and I'd rather get the running backs in there. So I'm less inclined to use TJ Hawkinson as my captain and more inclined to use Davante Adams as my captain. He's going to cost you quite a bit of money to put in as your captain, over $15,000. But that's where someone like Trinity Benson coming into your lineup can pay off quite a bit. You throw him in there, he gets a few targets. We did this last night with Byron Pringle. Was able to throw him in my lineup, so I was able to use Kelsey and Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, and the lineup scored very well. I almost took down a tournament last night. And that's what we're looking at to do today by using a little bit of that value so we can spend up on the big players. If we do use Adams as our captain, we're going to want to go ahead and put in Aaron Rodgers, obviously. And I think we're going to want Rodgers either way. He looked awful last week. And you would think he might come into this season in full Tom Brady FU mode. And he just got hammered last week against New Orleans. Detroit is probably going to feel the wrath of this game. I don't see how Aaron Rodgers doesn't come out and put up a big game. The main concern here, and it's not really a concern, but from a fantasy game theory perspective, Adams and Rodgers are going to be really widely owned, and I think it's going to be a pretty popular play to have Adams as your captain with Rodgers and a number of value plays. So maybe you do go with a Detroit running back as your captain just to sort of offset where we're going, or maybe you run Hawkinson out there as your captain and you don't use Jared Goff in your lineup, and that's a way that we can differentiate a little bit as well. I'm not in love with Robert Tonyan. I don't think he does a lot. He only got 4 targets last week. He was really touchdown dependent last year. He scored quite a bit of them, and Detroit's not great against the tight end, but I'm not sure I want to throw such a touchdown dependent guy in my lineup when we do have volume guys like Swift, Williams, Hawkinson, Adams that we can use in this game. He might be a little different than what other people are going to do, but $6,400 for a touchdown-dependent guy doesn't work for me as much. Aaron Jones should see more work than he saw last week. He only had 7 opportunities to touch the football. Didn't look great. I don't think that's going to signal that maybe this is A.J. Dillon's backfield. I don't think that's the case at all, and I think that gives us an opportunity to grab Jones at a lower roster percentage this week, get him into that lineup. I don't think we're fading Davante Adams to get Aaron Jones in there. Like, we're going to try to spend up and maybe get all 3 of those guys. But Jones could, if people are just, box score watching, if they're just looking at last week's stats, people might want to shy away from Aaron Jones. I think that would be a mistake because San Francisco ran all over Detroit last week, and Aaron Jones, we know, has the opportunity for big upside games. Another guy we want to look at here, right, is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Didn't do much last week, but did have those 8 targets, and the volume is great. Let's not forget that Deebo Samuel, well, I know Deebo Samuel's the wide receiver 1 for San Francisco, and Valdes-Scantling is very much not the wide receiver 1 for Green Bay. He plays a game a lot similar to Deebo Samuel than Davante Adams does. Davante Adams is more of a possession guy. He can get downfield, but he's not a create an open space player. He's a bigger guy, great hands, good route runner, but he's not a breakaway type of player, whereas Valdes-Scantling is. So maybe those types of plays that Deebo was running last week, we're going to see out of Valdes-Scantling this week. I guess you could play Allen Lazard. You could take a look. I don't care for him that much. Only 4 targets last week. Green Bay tends to funnel most of their work to their 2 main pass catchers, which would be, in this case, Valdes-Scantling and Davante Adams. Kickers probably in play, more so Crosby. I don't think that Austin Seibert's going to be much to look at. And my guess is Detroit's not going to want to be trading field goals for touchdowns, and so I think they're going to want to try to push the ball and not take the field goals too often. The Green Bay defense will probably be a very popular play, coming off a terrible week where they did literally nothing. Gave up a ton of yards on the ground. Didn't get a sack, didn't get a fumble recovery or an interception, but I still think they're going to be a really popular play just going up against the Detroit defense. It's not expected to do much, and they should clearly have a better game this week. So let's look at what a lineup might look like. Those are the main plays I'm looking at this week. I mean, pretty much touched on everyone and kind of where we're going. So let's throw Adams in as captain just to see what that does to our team. You put Rodgers in there. We'll throw Trinity Benson in there for a little bit of value. That gives us $6,300 left, so we can't really do too much at that point in terms of spending up elsewhere. Throw in Amon-Ra St. Brown. You want to throw in Hawkinson, and that leaves Jamal Williams. So if we're doing this, this is a weird lineup, right? So because you're going to need to get that value, and we're going to want to get some Detroit spend-up players like a Hawkinson, a Williams, and a Swift. I do think there needs to be this combination of at least two of those guys in your lineup. But the value to get there, really interestingly, is going to probably have to come from loading up on Detroit. That's an interesting way to build a lineup. I mean, I'm not 100% sure I'm very comfortable with that. I mean, what would happen if we threw Jamal Williams in a captain, Davante Adams goes in there, maybe then we could pull Amon-Ra St. Brown up a little bit, and you can get up to the Packers defense, you can get up to Lazard. You can't get up to Valdez-Scantling, though. That's pretty interesting. A lot of ways we can go with this. I do think you're going to have to play around a little bit with who you put in as your captain. I don't want to go too crazy. Like, I'll just put this in there just for giggles, right? I don't think this is the optimal way to go. But if you were to throw in a Trinity Benson as your captain, then you can get Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Davante Adams, TJ Hawkinson. But you still can't get either of the running backs. You're still looking at the Packers defense or a Lazard type of a player. So you have to be careful, even spending all the way down. It gets you that one extra player, but is that one extra player worth it? Because Benson in a captain spot maybe isn't the way that you're going to want to go. So maybe you fade the Aaron Jones, you go back to the Jamal Williams as a captain, potentially. And then you can play around from there. Again, we've got Hawkinson, we go with Benson, and then a Benson type. It doesn't have to be Benson, I don't think. And then you can go down to the... maybe you do go Mason Crosby. Maybe you like Mason Crosby, and then you don't want to go Benson. Maybe you go to Amon-Ra St. Brown. You feel like he's going to pick up. Or maybe you do Randall Cobb, thinking he'll get some more work. He was the wide receiver on the field the least for Green Bay last week. Only saw one target. Not a huge game, but we also know that Aaron Rodgers loves him. So perhaps that's a guy that you want to play. Maybe you get rid of Crosby. You go with A.J. Dillon. And then maybe you don't go Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that gives you, well, I don't think you want to go Lions defense. Darren Fells could see some time in the game. Like, there are different ways we can play around with this, right? Amari Rodgers didn't get a lot of work last week. So it really depends upon what your comfort level is, or if you're just going to go with the punt with the 4 Detroit players like we did when we first started. We throw in, again, you go back to that Adams as your captain. Or maybe, you know what, a lot of times you want your captain to be... wide receiver or a tight end, but maybe you throw Aaron Rodgers in as your captain, and that way you can get yourself some exposure elsewhere. You throw Jamal Williams in there. We go back to the Trinity Benson idea, which I seem to like quite a bit, and then you throw A.J. Dillon in there. Maybe he does get a little bit of work, and now you've got a 3-3 split. You still got the Rodgers and Adams, and then with Rodgers as your captain, you're going to give yourself some extra points when he does throw to someone other than Adams. And you do get Williams and Hawkinson in there, but you're not going with the 4th Detroit line, which I don't think we want to do. And then if Dillon does get some work, as he did last week, he got a little bit of work, 2 targets and 4 carries. They didn't really do much on the ground, but I think they're going to want to do more on the ground. If Green Bay gets up, Dillon could see 8 to 10 carries, milking the clock at the end of the game. This is a route I might end up taking in this game. This is a tougher game because you don't want a lot of Detroit, but you can't really afford to go a lot of Green Bay. And Green Bay is so condensed on where they spread the ball. There's not so much you can do there. So you're going to have to suck it up and take some Detroit, I think, in order to make this work. Folks, I hope that this was helpful for you and that we're able to see where we might want to go with our tournament lineups for tonight's Monday Night Football game. If you like what you see and you're interested in more content from Bankster DFS, don't forget that you can head on over to banksterdfs.com And for $3.99 a week, you get access to all of our content, not just football, every sport. $3.99 per week. It includes the Slack chat, it includes the player pools, it includes the major sports, the niche sports, the college sports. That is banksterdfs.com. If you have any questions, please hit me up on Twitter at Bankster17. And we will see you soon. Thank you so much for taking the time for spending this Monday afternoon with me. My name has been and will continue to be Doug Shane, banksterdfs.com.